on UM Network. Thanks a lot, and give us an opportunity to have your thought process on a very burning and very important topic: contemporary problems of Muslim youths in India, the way forward. That's very interesting topic. We'll be covering this topic along with a few very important topics. Let me just review those points also at the same time. First and foremost point, we'll be covering educational crisis in Muslim youth, lack of healthy leadership, crisis of self-confidence accompanied by sense of inferiority and low self-esteem, deficiency of moral training and religious orientation, lack of role model, widespread idleness and lowness of ambition, and isolation from Islamic culture and dissimulation into an alien one. We'll be covering these all points along with the most important topic, contemporary problems of Muslim youths in India, the way forward. What's up? Thank you so much again to joining us. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am very thankful for your generous introduction, as well as shedding light on the topic that would be really very important to be discussed, to be analyzed, and to be taken seriously in the modern time.
Thank you, Malana. Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to have your thoughts on the first and important topic itself, contemporary problems of Muslim youths in India, the way forward. How do you see these Muslim youths in India, and what will you suggest the way forward for them?
First of all, we have to consider the issue of youth, regardless of caste, color, creed, and the religion and region. First of all, we have to think that youth of any community has a big responsibility on its shoulder to play for its community itself. But when the matter goes to Islam, its teaching and its universality, it becomes more important than other issues. So when we live through the pages of Islamic history, we would come across that Islam has laid a lot of responsibility on the shoulder of Muslim youth. As we have seen, our Prophet Sallallahu the prophethood was given to the Prophet when he was young, and we can see also his beloved companion Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu was given a great responsibility to preach Islam, to go boundless people, to convey this universal message when he was young and in his vibrancy of life. So at the time, we can see in the same scenario the Muslim youth in India. We have seen, we have observed that Muslims youth, they don't have knowledge of Islam. Also, they are not very much concerned about their prosperity, development in modern education, and they have a lot of problems in religion, in economic, and in their mental and spiritual orientation. So this topic really appealed me a lot when I started to write on this topic, and when I discussed a lot of people and also I sought their suggestion. So I came to the conclusion that Muslims youth have many problems, but the first and foremost thing that we have discussed and we had to focus is their education. I came across that Muslims in India have a great proportion in the community, yet they don't have more opportunity to pursue education, and especially the higher education, so that they can lead the community to forward. And secondly, I saw our Muslim brethren in India, they don't have opportunity to develop their economy uh, in India, where it is considered now a hub of economy. People are coming, they are investing, but our people have been deprived of these great opportunities. So these things compelled me to write down my ideas on this very topic.
Okay, thank you so much, Malana. And as you mentioned while you're discussing this, you mentioned the opportunities and the modern education also, both the things. So at the same time, I would like to have your thoughts also. How can we create the opportunities for the Muslim youths, or maybe irrespective of caste, creed, and religion in India? Could you please
Yes,
just elaborate on this?
yes, very fantastic question in this regard. So, as far as the matter of opportunity concerned, we had to seek the service of intellectuals in Islamic religion, and also in the modern education. So what happens in India, the people, they are well versed in Islamic knowledge, they have disconnected themselves, they have distanced from the community, that they have full education, and also they have their close eyes on the development and ups and downs of economy and the world. So first of all, we have to convene such a program that the intellectuals can come together, they can share their ideas, and also the Islamic intellectuals, they can come with the Islamic viewpoint, and also the people they have worldly education, they can come their viewpoint, they can discuss each other, and they can think about the opportunity. For example, Muslim brethren who are pursuing education in madrasas, or you can say in classical institutions that are imparting Islamic knowledge, Islamic asset to them. So they should also think that how we can put our Muslim brethren who have equipped themselves with Islamic ornament, is a prophet knowledge and prophet legacy, and also the people who have got good knowledge in Islam in worldly education, they also think that how we can utilize their vocabularies and their skills, and how we can utilize from the people they have got modern education. So the big gap that has been created by becoming aloof from each other, it has been dismissed, and it must be eradicated, so that we can utilize each other's qualification, each other's caliber and capabilities.
Thanks a lot. Nice thoughts, Molana. Now the points we discussed, and we're gonna be covering under this contemporary problems of Muslim youths in India, the way forward. I would like to have your thoughts also. Educational crisis in Muslim youth, lack of leadership, lack of healthy leadership. In both the points, if you just cover both the things at a time, please.
So for me, about educational crisis, there are two reasons. The first
Okay.
reason is that the wealthy and well-off Muslim brethren think
Mm-hmm.
that the main goal and motive of life is gaining wealth, and it
Mm-hmm.
can be achieved without education. Just establishing any commercial institution, or just setting up a commerce or commerce institutions, or just making trade. So they are not focusing on education as much as they're focusing on piling up the wealth. And second reason is
Okay.
that you can also observe the Muslim brethren living in villages, just they are seeking primary education in their locality, and again they are submerging themselves in the communities. Their main focus is on worldly accommodaties. So also they are not very much concerned about the education as our other religious communities are concerned. For example, you can see the lower caste in India, they are going hunger, but they are not depriving their children of the education. But this sense of superiority and this sense of concern is not felt in Muslim community. And third thing is that we have to come across that the people who are well off, they are not very much concerned about the caliber that the poor people's children have. For example, if my child is not very much concerned about pursuing education, no matter, I cannot educate him, I cannot teach him, I cannot send him to seek higher education for foreign countries. But if I see a child of my poor neighbor, he is very much concerned about education, but he is suffering from poverty, that's why he is not going to complete his education. So at least I can give some amount of my money to make him capable to learn English, to learn higher education. So if I am lavishing my money on him, definitely he will be very much indebted to my contribution, my favor given to him. And as much as the matter of leadership concerned, so healthy leadership cannot be achieved without healthy education. So if we
Of
don't have
course.
education, for example, the people who are very much religious, they know all the Islamic teachings and Islamic guidance and injunctions, but they are lacking the current scenario. For example, what the ups and downs in the country, how the politician and the political concepts are changing. So if we are looking towards the situation the same we have looked 2 decades before, I think it will not be applicable to it, and also it will not bring good result. So healthy leadership cannot be achieved without healthy education. So I think they are twin. We cannot separate from each other.
Wow, very nice. The third point we have to cover here, Malana Mufti Sahab, crisis of self-confidence accompanied by sense of inferiority and low self-esteem. How do you describe it, and what you mean by this particular point? Low self-esteem accompanied by self-inferiority, and again deficiency of moral training and religious orientation and not. If you could cover this point also, please.
So you know better that self esteem and self inferiority or self superiority,
Mhm.
it comes from the regime or from the governance the people have. If you look back in the Islamic history, you can see the Christians and the other communities, they felt inferiority, and they were in mass of feeling that they have no value in the world. Why? Because they did not have governance, and they did not have full power and control on the resources scattered in the world. So the same thing happened in our age or in our period. We see that Muslims have lost their hold and their control on the resources and on the
Mhm.
political power. And once I read in the rights of Hazrat Maula Ali Mia Sahab Rahmatullah Alayhi, he has written that if Muslim brethren want to gain their lost hegemony on the world, at the time they will have to be equipped with both the tools and both the weapons. The first one is Islamic heritage, Islamic legacy, and secondly, that the resources what Allah Almighty has created for the human being. If somebody is just piling up money, accumulating wealth and resources, but he is not very much concerned about the education and the moral and values that Islam has taught, so he cannot gain both the things. But when we see the pre-Islamic history and then the Islam came, at the time we can see the people who believed in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and who converted to Islam, at the time also they felt inferiority, but once again they started acting upon the Holy Quran and the prophetic tradition. The same time also they put themselves in the worldly life. At the time they felt that they are on the top of the world. So the same thing happened with our community in this age, that they are being trained well in Islamic guidance, but at the same time they are lacking to focus on worldly life. So if we are not going to combine between the Islamic teachings and worldly life, at the time we cannot get rid of this prevailing situation. So if we want to boost the confidence in our youth in India, so we have to give them both the tools. First one, Islamic teaching must be inculcated in their mind, and at the same time we have to give them opportunity to prosper, to develop, being attached to the worldly life. By this way we can give them confidence, and we can eliminate the prevailing situation that they feel that we have nothing to do, we are useless, or we are slothful. So all these negative thoughts can be removed, just making them acquainted with both the things, Islamic teachings and worldly resources.
As I understand, Mufti Saab, by your elaboration on this point, I just came to a conclusion that are you meaning that we have to have combined education system where we can have both education at one place at a time. We can just equip the child with both the things. Did you mean that?
Definitely, definitely, it is the part of my talk.
Okay.
What happens?
Thank.
What happens
Yeah. Go.
when we see the contemporary youth? So there is a huge gap between the modern education and the religious education. So I
Mm,
think both these things go together, as we have seen in the University of Zaytunia. At the
mhm.
time, the people who are very much expert in science and technology, the same time they were very expert in jurisprudence and Islamic history.
Seriously. Seriously. Okay, let's come to the other point, and I just want to have your thoughts on that particular point also. Isolation from Islamic culture and dissimulation into an would you like to have thoughts on this point also, please?
Yes, definitely. That is very appealing, interesting. We have to focus on it. You
Please.
can see in India that
Yeah.
many of our youth, when they are departing from their hometown and they're traveling, for example, if somebody is traveling from UP to Hyderabad, so you can
Mm,
see a lot of symbols they are attaching to themselves so that they cannot be recognized while having journey. So it is a sign of assimilation in the alien culture and civilization. Also when you look at their haircut and their appearance and their dress code, the same time it signifies that they are not very much interested in Islamic culture and civilization. For this problem, we have to come up with a roadmap. We have to set up a very well thought campaign throughout the country. We should organize such a program that can bring mental, physical, uh, and spiritual orientation in our youth. Otherwise, when 2 or 3 decades passed on them, when we are going to make them understand, that definitely they will mock us and they will not listen to us. So we can see clearly in our community that the Muslim youth who are going to pursue education in modern faculties or in modern institutions, they are not coming back to hold the Islamic culture and civilization. So this is very alarming for Muslim Ummah to observe and to conceive these things. If they are not focusing on that, definitely the time would come we will not recognize who is Muslim and who is from the other community.
Thank you so much. This was really interesting, and I'd like to have one more thought on one particular point that we have to cover under this topic. Sneaking apostasy among the Muslim youth. How do you see that? How would you like to elaborate on this point? Apostasy and all like.
Yes, yes. When the Islamic movement grew lesser and lesser in its influence in India,
Mhm.
so the clutches of apostasy started increasing at its highest scale. And also you have gone through clipping of newspapers before 3 or 4 5 years, that the people staying in Allahabad and also in Agra, they have converted with their whole community into the other religion. So these are the signs that are uh, giving us clear evidence that the people from Muslim community, especially the youth, when they are going to learn learn modern education in universities. So when the professors and the teachers and the lecturers are coming, they are criticizing Islam, its values and its teaching, and they are uh, very much keen to prove that Islam is the religion of hatred and enmity. It doesn't foster and promote good values, and it is enemy of brotherhood, peace, and prosperity. So they make up their mind that Islam is not the religion that can keep us guiding in our worldly life. So, and also they are learning and they're learning Islamic teachings through internet and through the second-hand sources that have been compiled by the Christians and the Orientalists. So at that time, the mind is blocked and the mind is loaded with un-Islamic thoughts and anti-Islamic elements. That's why this idea and this approach is very much going to deepen in the mind of our youths learning in Islamic in modern education. So it is our responsibility to create such an atmosphere where their worldly life and also their religious and spiritual life can go together, and it cannot happen without involving without consuming our Islamic skills and Islamic literature to bring them up and to make up their mind. That is the result of a huge gap between us and between our youth in India.
Mufti Sahab, you mentioned some of the things about Orientalist and the resources and all. I'd like to have your thoughts on this point also, along with this, that why what we have to do actually, whether we have to go back to the roots of Islam and the main resources of Islam, and we have to learn all the knowledge from there. Do you mean that?
Yes, I wanted to say that Islamic sources
Mhm.
have been elaborated, have been discussed, have been studied by our own forefather. We don't need we don't need any kind of religious help from anybody else. If he is giving us good information, so Islam is teaching us that we should accept. But as far as the matter of Islamic history, Islamic culture, Islamic civilization, and jurisprudence concerned, we should not borrow any kind of contribution from other people. Our ulama, our scholars, our theologians have done a lot for us. We don't need to be dependent on them. But when something new is coming from their side, and definitely it is in the light of the Holy Quran and the light of the Prophet ﷺ, so we should not reject them blindly. We should accept them. We should think that they are helpful, because these people have done a lot for Islamic asset and for Islamic legacy. They have revived it a lot. They have done a lot, but at the same time, they have also done a lot of damage to the Islamic legacy, and they started to distort Islam in Islamic history.